to Muse Monday, a conversation series with emerging artists and recent graduates about making it, mastery, and being a multi-hyphenate in the entertainment industry today. My name is Bryce Dallas Howard, and I'm founder of Nine Muses Entertainment, and you are about to meet the wonderful Nia Farrell, who will be your host for the series.
Hey everyone, it's Nia from Nine Muses Entertainment, and today's special guest is Danica Jensen. Danica is an actor, director, web developer, and amateur ghost hunter, whose work focuses on examining the absurdity in the ordinary. We're going to talk about the self-delusions that got us here, and the ones we need to let go.
Hey Danica, welcome to Muse Monday.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. This is our 4th episode, midpoint, and I am so psyched because this is our Mythbusters episode.
Yeah,
you're going to take us through the self-delusions of our artistry and tell us how to overcome them. Self-delusions ultimately are just exaggerated stories that we tell ourselves, and as
100%.
artists, we are really good storytellers, so it
100%.
makes sense. We're kind of delusional.
It's a protective mechanism to some extent as well. But yes, we're excellent at deceiving ourselves.
Yes, you need some delusion, and other stuff you can just put to the side.
Totally. Delusion can be a good thing, but it can be way too much of a good thing.
Yeah. Well, in terms of delusions, what is your number one? And this can be artistic. We don't need to get into our personal delusions.
I see ghosts. Oh man, here we go. My realization into understanding that I was delusional in the first place was this idea that only having one hyphenate is the norm. Part of that is learned. You don't generally go to school for acting, writing, directing, producing all at the same time. People have, their minor. Some people double major, but they think they're really doing something new and exciting. Not that they think that. The institution is whoa, you're going crazy.
And oftentimes they'll tell you not to do it. They say it's too much.
100%. And they don't really set you up for success, in my experience with it, necessarily, just because, the times are conflict. You're directing classes at the same time as that writing class you want to take. Or the directing class is a full-time curriculum, so you don't have any time to take that acting class you wanted to take. And I was in a different situation. I was put into a training program that was primarily a directing studio. We all had to take directing our first year. We all had to take acting. And we all had to take playwriting. So then my sophomore year, I transferred into the directing program. I fought that so hard. I'd go into these classes and I would be I'm not a director. I'm just doing this for a year. Throwing it away in that regard. I mean, I would do my work and I enjoyed directing, but I would never call myself a director. And I would insist that I was about to go back to acting any minute, as soon as I could. And I spent a lot of energy fighting that hyphenate. And I don't know when I stopped fighting that hyphenate, actually. I did, though. I eventually did. And that was absolutely freeing and super necessary, and it only improved my acting. At this point, I don't think that you can be an actor if you've never tried to direct anything, and I don't think you can be a director if you've never tried to act anything. You literally can, but you learn so much from doing the other thing, even if it's not what you're going to pursue in a professional manner or in a really serious manner. You're just it's nice to be the one that calls the shots sometimes, and it's nice to be the one that wants to, contribute to someone else's vision. And I think that balance is really important. And then along the way, added writing. During this whole little quarantine period, I've started painting. Yeah, which is crazy. I'm didn't think I could paint at all. I was I'll just throw some paint on it. Now I'm these are some good paintings.
I think that's what Jackson Pollock might have said. It's I'm just gonna throw some paint on this and see what happens.
I'm doing the Jackson Pollock method.
Yeah.
But then I realized, I can't really do a whole lot of directing unless I want to do film right now. I can't practice that, which I do like doing. I filmmaker. I can add that as a hyphen. But painting's a total exercise in composition and color. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something to be said for doing it intuitively instead of seeking out an institution to tell you how to do that.
You've established a practice where all your hyphenates are in conversation with each other and they've actually uplifted each other. They're no
100%.
longer in silos of like, when I'm a director, I'm only a director. You're drawing
Right.
on your composition work from painting and from your spatial awareness while being an actor.
Totally. And I had a stint in college where I was doing a lot of choreography work. And I called myself a choreographer. And I would still consider myself a choreographer, although it's not something that I would necessarily pursue jobs for. However, if someone's like, I need a choreographer, I'm like, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I also think is a great thing when you're just trying to exist in the world after school, just being able to do any job that is given to you, just kind of with I don't know, because you can't, no human, even if you only pursue one hyphenate professionally, or like, even if it's not professionally, just as the thing that you do, totally fine. But I think you're deceiving yourself if you believe that you're not capable of expressing yourself through other mediums.
Yes.
And I think if you would be open to try it, you would find a lot of enjoyment, even if it's totally private. You don't need to show anyone your paintings, or whatever it is that you make, but just, we're creatures that want to make things, and I don't think we only want to make things in one area.
Right. This isn't to bash the single hyphenate pursuit, but this is to uplift the multi-hyphenacy of us all. The fact that we can become good collaborators at the end of the day and really put our hands in a lot of buckets. Well, there's that self-delusion.
Yeah. So that's huge.
Check it off? I don't know. It's an ongoing process. There's really no like checkbox, but it's like a constant check-in with yourself.
Definitely. And definitely making sure that you're not, I mean, defining your hyphenates is helpful because when you walk into a room and you say, like, people identify as theater makers, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. People don't necessarily know what that means. And I've encountered theater makers, turns out what they really like doing is writing, or what they really like doing is choreography. And identify as whatever you want, but the label is helpful for like the outside world just to understand what you're doing. I think that's really all that matters, because at the end of the day, you're just making art.
Yeah.
So I think I think it's always something you're up against. And, you know, I find when I'm directing, I'm always like, I want to be acting right now, or blah, blah, blah. But at a certain point, with more and more practice, and now I've been doing both hyphenates for about 5 years, which is frightening. Where did time go? So now I'm more comfortable letting them talk to each other and letting them inform each other, and just kind of existing as an artist instead of being like, well, what I really should be doing right now is focusing on my acting career. And why am I only doing directing stuff right now? Or vice versa. What
do you think is a self-delusion that you've seen in a lot of artists, like outside of yourself, or maybe even for you too?
I think martyrdom is huge.
Yeah, that's not a light title. Martyrdom. Where
I don't know anybody who's not guilty of it in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. It's more prominent in some hyphenates for me. Writing, which I love doing because I love being the one to craft the story. But I sit in my room like half the time, and I don't know what I do. I stare at the computer screen and I like feel like I'm dying. Like it's almost like it's like being drained of all my blood or something.
Yeah, it definitely shows up in certain environments. I'm thinking specifically of like conservatory programs where it can kind of become a competition about like who's doing the most, who's not getting enough sleep. And it enforces this idea that like the artist is the sufferer, like that's what's necessary in order to make work. And I'm guilty of it. Like
we're all guilty of it. I really don't think anyone's ever like not at least slipped into it. And, you know, Godspeed if they made it out quickly without too much torture in the process. But the thing to remember about martyrdom, I think, is that it's completely learned. I don't know where it begins.
There's something that you said that like you were a better artist before you went to college.
Oh yeah.
This is another bold statement brought to you by Muse Monday. Not everyone goes to a conservatory program, but in that like switch to adulthood, that meeting of expectations, that childhood spirit, that openness of being a channel gets lost. As we're trying to find the solution to martyrdom in the arts.
Yeah.
What do you feel is that antidote? What does it mean to give yourself permission, to give yourself freedom?
I think that finding freedom from martyrdom and all self-delusion actually involves another delusion, which would be the permission slip, which I believe Elizabeth Gilbert writes about in Big Magic, I think. Yes. It could be Julia Cameron. It could be anybody. They've all written about it. It's kind of, I mean, nobody needs permission to make art. That's plain and simple. And it's delusional to think so. And I think that's a trap a lot of us fall into. It's so much easier for someone to hire you to be in an acting job than for you to birth a whole new project just so that you can be in something. And I feel like that's kind of a false binary.
We've given permission to the gatekeepers rather than giving permission to ourselves.
Bingo. This kind of gets into the territory of just let go. But you can't let go of anything that you don't know you're holding on to in the first place. So it's like, that would be very useful if we knew what we were holding on to. But you can write yourself your own permission slip. This is definitely in Big Magic, because Liz Gilbert writes about some guy who wrote to Werner Herzog complaining about how he couldn't afford to be a filmmaker, all sorts of perfectly reasonable stuff. And I'm totally paraphrasing. To some effect, Werner Herzog wrote back, literally hand wrote a letter back, which is kind of cool, and was like, stop complaining, steal a camera and make that film.
Yes.
And so he framed it and he put it above his workstation. And to a certain extent, maybe we all need to write ourselves a little, harsh kick of tough love and put it and frame it above our workspace.
Yeah, bringing the just do it mentality. We understand there are perfectly reasonable barriers, whether it be I can't afford a camera, but the more you set up those roadblocks, you're never going to want to go through them. So you might as well just give your permission to say, I will find whatever way possible for me to write the film, for me to make the painting.
Exactly. And the trouble that comes with it too is, if you're buying into that mentality, which I think we all do at one point or another, what you're saying is these people that you look up to, that you admire, even people that you don't admire, but that have achieved success by the standards that you like to measure your success. I acknowledge that's different for everyone. What you're basically saying is that they're allowed to have everything and you can't have anything. And that's just, at the end of the day, an unacceptable way to live your life. And it's just unacceptable, period. Totally unacceptable.
Yeah.
You
period,
must,
point blank.
So at the end of the day, are you going to keep living like this? Because you can't. It's not a life I would want to live. You certainly can live your life like this, but I don't recommend it.
This is a very strong kick in the butt. Where it's I've read a lot of self-help, self-artistry books that use the phrase give yourself permission, let go, but it feels so amorphous and a state of mind. But you're talking about action. It's letting go is 100%. Actually just writing something on a piece of paper and having that be the start.
And to furiously pursue whatever it is that will allow you to let go. Like I said, letting go would be, these self-help books are lovely and inspirational. And while I'm reading them, I'm so energized. And then I don't do anything about it, and you're like, well, what am I letting go of? In acting school, I think in any artistic school, I'm sure, you get the make a bold choice. I want a bold choice. And this drove me crazy. Absolutely crazy. Because what is a bold, I'd do anything. I'd slam doors really loud. Then you see people start to just become strange, pseudo animals in the middle of Hamlet or something.
And that's part of the martyrdom too, where it's okay, I will do whatever it takes to make a bold choice.
Yeah, and then it only works when your creative choice and instinct was really to become this amorphous giraffe with 10 heads. If that was really your thing and you really wanted to do that, I've seen that sold in class,
And that's a bold choice.
It's a bold choice.
It's not your choice.
Exactly. It's really true that the bold choice is some nonsense thing that nobody really knows the meaning of. And I know this firsthand as a director who's been at a loss for anything other than, I need you to do something. I need you to make a bold choice and do something else. And that's how I know it doesn't mean anything at all.
It just means to try, to experiment, to trust yourself, to do something that's outside of your pattern. That is the bold choice.
Exactly. And you're like, well, what does bold mean? and it means you taking your creativity seriously.
So on the path to eliminating self-delusion, you've been working on some incredible pieces. Would you mind telling us a little about them?
Sure. Well, I started off 2020 finishing up a musical that I was commissioned to write that I can't say any more about. Other than that was true. Am I a musician? No. I am now, I guess, kind of. And was I a writer when I accepted the job? No, not really. So I was working on that. And then when coronavirus started, we being my frequent collaborator, Kate Warner, and myself, soft launched a production company that we've been working on for actually kind of a few years. First as a joke and then a few years as a real thing. And so we saw the opportunity to kind of just be a resource for artists, especially in our network during this very scary and bizarre time. And we started the 1 Minute Film Festival, which I mean, we haven't done it in a few weeks, but it's a film festival where 24 hours before you get a prompt and some themes, and in 24 hours you make a 1 minute film. That's really the gist of it. And then you have a film festival and we all watch it, and then, you know, you come back next week and do it again. And I made a few, and it was just a fun kind of stay creative and stay practicing just something. Especially early on when really we had nothing to do and we had no idea what to do or how to do it, or we were like, well, you might as well make a film and come out of it with some short films. And then later on we ended up doing an anti-racism education toolkit for super beginners, because we saw that a lot of this stuff was inaccessible to those who just at face value like can't even begin to access the material. And we thought, well, we're willing to put in that time and hand holding that, you know, shouldn't be the case, but needs to be the case in order to get some resources out to people. So that we worked on for many months. And now I'm just kind of working and living my life, trying to figure out how to live a, you know, holistically creative life instead of having projects define what's going on. But I'm writing a lot. Hopefully my short will become a feature length very soon.
That's wonderful. I couldn't have thought of a better way to end this. Not letting your projects define you, not letting your self-delusions define you. You've given us a very loving kick in the butt today, so I very much appreciate that, Danica.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Well, thank you for joining Muse Monday. You can follow Danica in the comments below, and we'll see you next week. Hear me. My God, I hope that doesn't end up in the bloopers. me.
Well, now we've really done ourselves in.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
So good to see you, Danica.
It's so good to see you, Nia.